Okay, my friends, so in this video we will make the meat of this tutorial system. So let's go to the script. Let's go to interaction system and we will create interaction controller. So let's call it interaction controller. And yeah, this will be the core of our system. It will handle everything. It will connect everything together. So it's something like basically a controller for interaction system. So let's start the same as always. Blank class interface, not interface, namespace, public class interaction controller, money behavior. So what do we need here? So we will need few things. I will make a header. I'll call it data, and here we'll make we will add variables that we need, which are our data that we created before. So what we created before is interaction input data and also the interaction data. So there are two scriptable objects that we need. So let's write them. So let's write interaction input data, and we'll call it interaction input data. The second one, this should be public because we want to drag it through the script. So the next one is interaction data. So let's write public interaction data, and it will be called interaction data. And for data, that's all that we need. And now let's make a separate header, and I will call it array settings, and I will add a space, so it will have a space, or maybe it should be above this header. So let's add a space above this header. And what we need is few variables. So let's write public float ray distance. So this is how long we can check stuff. So how long is our ray? We will need public float. My gosh, sorry guys. Public float ray radius, sphere radius. So we will not use the normal physics.raycast. We will use physics.spherecast. So we will raycast sphere. So it will have a bigger radius. So for example, if you raycast on the edge of the outside interactable a bit, it will still I forgot how to say it. It will still make it interactable. Okay, so let's add two more variables that we need. So we'll need layer mask that we want to collide with. So it will be public layer mask, and we'll call it interactable layer. And for now, it's all that we need. So for variables, so we will need some few private components. So what component do we need is camera. So let's write private camera, and I will call it m_camera or cam m_cam. Never mind, sounds weird. So let's make it for now it. So if we will need more, we will create more. So let's first get components. So let's write void awake, and we will get the components in awake. So we want to find object of type, and we want to find the camera, and we assign it to our component. So for now it's everything in our awake method. And now we can make a update function, and inside update we will create our own method called check for interactable, and we want to have one more method that is called check for interactable input. So the first method will just check if we are pointing at interactable, and the second one will actually do something with it. So now let's create them. So they will be both void. And the second one is also void, so let's check for interactable input. And it's already too complicated, so I will make some regions to make everything more clean, and if you want to skip it, you can skip it. Variables here, okay, and here will be methods, but I will split them into built-in methods that are provided by Unity, like this. And I will also have a custom region for custom methods, so they will be called region custom methods. And we'll drag the end region here. Let's indent it by 1. Okay, so we have check for interactable. So in this method, we first want to create array. So let's create array. So we have array, we'll call it underscore array, and I use underscore for local variables. So we'll assign it to new array, and the origin point is the camera position. So m.underscore cam dot transform dot position, and the direction we want to cast the ray is the forward of our camera, so where the camera is pointing, so it will be camera that transform that forward. So it's our ray. So we also want to create the raycast hit info, so it will store our hit data. So what we hit, it will be stored here. And now let's create a bool that will be basically storing the value whether we hit something or not. So I will call it hit something, and we want to assign the result of physics that raycast, so physics that spherecast actually, and the parameters that we have to pass is the ray. So let's first pass the ray, and then we pass the radius of the sphere. So we have this method, like we have this variable for it. So I forgot how it was called, ray sphere radius. Okay, and the next is out hit info. So basically we write out it will store the hit data into our hit info variable that we made before. And the almost last one is ray distance. Now how far we want to cast our ray, and the last one is the layer that we want to interact with. So it's an interactable layer. So that's all that we need. We'll expand it, or give me guys a second. Debug, no, view, appearance, not centered. Okay, now it's a bit better, I think. Okay, so now after we have this bool, we can check if we hit something. So if hit something, then we do something. So we will write do something. Something else we do something else. So else we do something else. So now let's start with this implementation, like with first if. So in this if, first we want to check if this thing that we hit is interactable or not. So we create a temporary local variable that is of type interactable base, and I will call it interactable, and I will assign it to hit info that transform the get component interactable base. Okay guys, so after we get this, now we want Now we want to check if this interactable is not null. So if it's not null, then it means that we hit something that is interactable. So now we want to check if our interaction data is empty. So we have this interaction data that we created before. So if you remember here, it's here, and we have this variable called interactable, and we want to assign the interactable that we hit right now to this variable, so it will be stored inside our data. So we checked first if our interaction data is empty. So if it's empty, then we can assign something. So we want to assign our interaction data that like we want to get into our interactable variable, and we want to assign this our newly founded interactable. And this is empty as a method, so we have to add like this brackets, and yeah, we assign this interactable to our interactable variable. I know it sounds a bit like complicated, like the name is complicated, but you'll understand it, guys. So if it's empty, we assign our new interactable to our data. Else, if it's not empty, then we want to do something. First, we want to check if it's the same interactable. So now the method that comes handy is the method that we created before. So we want to access interaction data, and we want to check if this new interactable is same as the previous one. So we pass in the interactable. If this is the same interactable, basically we return. So it means that do nothing. If it's the same interactable, just go out. Else, if it's not the same, then we want to assign new interaction data. So it will be interaction data interactable, and we want to assign it to be new interactable. So this is the core of our interaction system, and this is if you hit something. I will rewrap it for you guys again. So if we hit something, we check if it has a component interactable based on it, and if it does, then we check if our interaction data is currently empty. So if we have a slot for interactable. So if we have, we will assign this interactable to our interactable data. Else, if it's not empty, which means that there's some interactable in our data slot, then we check if it's the same interactable. And if it is, we do nothing, we just go out, we return. And else, if it's new interactable, then we assign this new interactable to be our new interactable. So we'll overwrite our interactable data. So here we have one more thing that we have to implement, which is the else case. So if we hit something, everything happens, but if we don't hit anything, then we just want to reset our data. So you write interaction data that reset data. So this will null out our reference to our current interactable. So that is it for the checking for interactable, guys. So now we have to check for the interactable input, but first maybe I will write the small debug line so we can see it in the inspector, so, like in the scene view. So let's write debug.draw ray, and the ray we want to draw origin will be our ray origin, ray.origin, and the direction will be ray.direction. So the color now depends on if we hit something, we want to have green, but if we don't hit anything, we want to have red. So you write hit something and you write question marks, and this question marks means that if we hit something, then we will use the first parameter, which will be color that green. Otherwise you have to separate it by those two dots, colon, I think. We want to write color that red. So if we hit something, then it will use green as the color, otherwise it will use red. And that is it. So we can see it now in the inspector, basically. So let's go back to to scene view, and let's go to the first person controller. And now I want to add this interaction system, like interaction controller to it. And as you can see, we have interaction input data, and we need the data. So there's the data that we created and interaction data also. We just pass it in. So the ray distance, for example, would be 5. And the ray sphere radius, let it be 0.3, for example. And the layers that we want to interact with will be interactable. And if you don't have it, just go to the layer, click add layer, and just add it here. So I want to change the cube here. And let's change its layer to interactable, so we can now interact with it. And I will go to Visual Studio Code for a second. And here in this debug draw ray, I just want to draw the length of our ray. I'll multiply the ray distance with our ray distance, like ray direction with our ray distance. So now we will have, if we have 5 meters, like 5 meters ray, it will show up. So I'll drag the game view here to the bottom, so we can see the view and everything. So let's click play and let's see what happens. Okay, so I have null exception. Why? Okay guys, so I had this interaction controller on the camera pivot, and I don't know why, but I had it. So you can just remove it, so you will not have that problem. And we can also remove the interaction canvas. So this will not be needed for now, but it will be needed later, but we can delete it right for now. So let's click play again. There should be no null. Okay, so as you can see, in the scene view we have this red debug draw line, and it has 5 meters because we set it in the inspector, and it's red because we haven't hit anything. But if I go to the cube, you can see that why it disappeared basically. Oh my gosh, why? Okay guys, so I know what's happening. So here we have to change the structure a bit. So because we were returning because it was the same interactable, and now we want to do it a bit different. The result will be the same, but the structure will be a bit different. So we want to check, like for now we delete this return and else, and we want to add this mark like this. I don't know, Wykrzyknik. Okay, it's called exclamation mark. So we want to add this exclamation mark here, and we want to check like this. So if it's not the same, because previously we were checking if it's the same, so now we check if it's not the same, then we assign this new interactable. So now there should be no problem with drawing the ray. So let's go back, let's check it for 100%. So we want to check it one more time. So it's red now, and if I go up here, it's green because we hit something. And if we move out, you can see that it will be red again. So we have this basic interaction controller system because it detects things. But in the next video, I will make that we can do actually something about it. So we'll finish the method called check for interactable input. So it's a very long video. I don't know, it's too long. So thank you guys for watching. Sorry for being such a bad teacher, but I'm not that great, and I don't have any skills in teaching, but I try. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.